On this episode, we discuss the pros and cons of going vegetarian in Bangkok. Is it as difficult as I think it is?
Well, luckily, I've been vegan in Bangkok for the last year, so put in your earphones and hear me school Greg on eating veggie in the Big Mango.
Sawadee krap and welcome to the Bangkok podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who has been trying and failing to understand Thailand since 2001.
And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 17 years ago.
So right off the bat, big thanks to all those who support the show on Patreon. And one of the cool things our patrons get is a weekly uncensored bonus episode where we talk about all kinds of stuff. And Ed, we just finished recording this week's bonus show where we chatted about my ongoing struggles trying to decide if taking the BTS is really better than driving a car in Bangkok, your guest spot on a cool new podcast, and if we have jobs or careers, which I thought was kind of an interesting question to ask. So if that sounds like something you would like to check out, then head over to bangkokpodcast.com/support to learn more.
So before we jump into our topic for tonight, we need help from all you listeners out there. We'd like to know a bit more about you, everyone who listens to our show. Specifically, we need to know if you live in Thailand or not, or if you're just a visitor or someone curious about Thailand. And if you do live here, how long actually have you been here? Are you kind of a newbie? Have you been here a couple months, 10 years, 20 years? We're really curious to know.
Yeah. We were talking the other night and we thought that we really don't know exactly who listens, like short-term expats, long-term expats, visitors, tourists, or something like that. So, listener, if you would be so kind, please fire off a quick email to bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. Doesn't have to be long. You can just put in a number in the subject of the email if you want to. But we're just really curious to see how long you have been living in Thailand. If you listen to the show and don't live in Thailand, that's great. We don't want to hear from you. Not for this particular thing anyway. We're only interested in people who live here. Like, is it short-term expats or long-term expats or what? So, bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Just a quick email. Do us a solid here. Come on.
Thanks for your help.
So with that out of the way, on this episode, we wanted to talk about something that I think is quite interesting. We wanted to talk about what it's like being a vegetarian in Bangkok. Now, I myself am a pure carnivore, but I do enjoy vegetarian food. And in fact, Ed, you and I went out to a gnarly little restaurant in the back soys behind Khalsan Road the other night and had some really, really good vegetarian food. Mostly because, Ed, it was your choice because you have been doing the vegetarian thing for a year now. And personally, I've always thought that it would be really difficult to go all veg here. But Ed, that's not your experience. So let's discuss.
Yeah, I guess the first thing to do is clarify exactly what we're talking about, because as soon as you open up the Pandora's box of different diets, it's amazing. It's amazing how many different versions and varieties there are. So for our purposes, I guess we're just going to talk about two variations. So vegetarian, I take to mean not eating any meat or seafood, but still eating dairy products, so still eating cheese or eggs or milk. And then vegan is going like all the way and having no animal products whatsoever. So maybe when we talk tonight, we'll try to talk about like both versions of that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think vegetarian, I think, could just sort of, for me anyway, vegetarian just kind of means no steak, no chicken, no fish. I mean, if someone cooks something with some beef broth or something like that, it's not a big deal. But like you said, everyone's got their thing, and there's a million different grades and gradients,
no doubt,
within this definition. So I just can't help but remember going out for dinner with my uncle one time. And my uncle lives in Chiang Rai, and my real uncle, my mom's brother, and he's a vegetarian. He's a strict Buddhist, and it was such a pain in the ass going out with him. And I've always sort of joked that there's three people you can't trust: guys who don't wear belts, people who wear their watches on the inside of their wrist, and vegetarians.
Interesting. I agree with the first two. There. I agree.
Guys that don't wear belts. I mean, what's going on with that? You gotta wear a belt. but I don't know. I just thought, especially in Bangkok, it just seemed to be like a huge obstacle to enjoying food.
Yeah, it's interesting. All this food stuff is so personal and it's so psychological. And so I definitely think that what works for one person doesn't work for someone else. I mean, I know there's some nutritional issues and science is science and all that, but the bottom line is food is so personal that I think everyone has to find out what works for them. And in my case, I've experimented with diet a lot. I'm just one of those people that likes to try different things. So I've done paleo before. I've actually been a vegetarian before. But actually this year, I wanted to try going hardcore and being vegan. And I'm quite actually. I guess I'm somewhat proud of it. Sunday will be April 1st, and I will have been a vegan for 1 year. So I've been trying to avoid all animal products for the last year, and I have not been 100% successful. So my take on it, since I'm doing it as kind of an experiment, I really don't like when people are religious about food, unless they actually are religious. So, if you're,
okay,
you know what I mean?
Fair enough, I guess.
If you're an Orthodox Jew and you don't want anything to do with pork, or if you're a believing Muslim and you're very serious about whether tiny particles of pork are in your food, more power to you. Like, I'm not religious, so I don't think that way. But I've never liked vegetarians or low carb people who treat it like a religion. To me, that makes no sense. Because like, even if you're low carb, like a tiny amount of sugar is not going to kill you. If you're a vegan, a tiny amount of cheese is not going to kill you. So I wanted to avoid animal products, but also not be like obsessive or weird about it. So I've got some flexibility in there.
Yeah, I really don't like when people become a militant fill in the blank, whether it's a militant Christian or a militant atheist or a militant vegetarian or a militant paleo. Like, do your thing, but leave other people alone.
Agreed.
But I think it's easy to sort of do it and then do it to the nth degree, which I'm not really a fan of. So in Bangkok though, like if you and I were out and we weren't going to a vegetarian restaurant, could you find vegetarian food easily?
Well, first, it does take, it is a transition. So you have to, when you first try it, it feels awkward. Like when you've never done it before, it's awkward and you don't know what to look for and you don't necessarily know what to order. But I personally don't think it's hard to be vegetarian in Bangkok at all. Like, you just have to you just have to know a few dishes. Like, one very simple go-to thing is just to get like khao pad pak, which is like, fried rice with vegetables, and you can just get khao pad pak everywhere. You just have to tell them, like, if you're a vegetarian, they can put egg in it, but if you want to go all vegan, you just have to tell them, my sai kai, like, don't put egg in it. And so that, to me, that's my backup. So no matter where I am, I can always just get khao pad pak, my sai kai, and that's like a go-to. Now, of course, like, fried rice with vegetables is not the most exciting thing. So, I mean, but that's just like a starting, that's just a starting point. So, because Thai people understand eating vegetarian because of like the J festival. So our listeners probably know about the J Festival, but if you don't, it's in October of every year, and essentially it's a Chinese Buddhist festival where you're supposed to go vegetarian. And the definition of J is a little bit vague.
Kidding.
It's supposed to be Chinese Buddhist, but it's also influenced by like Jain. I think it's influenced by like Jain culture. And like Jains are vegetarians, but they also have some other beliefs. They believe they're influenced by like Ayurvedic medicine and traditional Indian beliefs, and so they avoid things like garlic and onion, like very strong, pungent spices. They avoid. So sometimes in the Thai J Festival, you'll get influences of that, where it's not really exactly the same thing as being vegan. Sometimes it adds some constraints to it, and I've actually asked for J food and gotten some stuff with egg in it. So I usually just make it, my Thai's good enough that I can make it clear what I want. But I think that just today, right now, we're in the middle of like a big vegetarian wave right now. So you're probably aware of it. Our listeners are probably aware of it. But there's like a ton of vegan / vegetarian documentaries all over the place now, like on Netflix and everywhere.
It's funny. I'm not aware of it at all. I guess I don't roll in vegan circles.
Well, no. My point is, I think it's I think it's getting out of the. I think it's getting out of the vegan circles. That's what I'm saying. I think it's becoming more mainstream. I think
that's just sort of a side effect of that being so much media and information out there that it's super easy to say, I need a change. What should I do? This is good. And now it's just so much easy to find how to do things the right way instead of just making it sort of a guessing game.
Oh, well, I'm sure that,
I guess.
I think there's some truth to that. I'm not saying, obviously vegetarianism and veganism has been around for a long time. So I think it would be wrong to call it like a fad. But I think it's just right now, in the last couple of years, I think it's experiencing some kind of resurgence. Now, whether it lasts or not or continues, I have no idea. I just saw some story 2 days ago, and it was something about, I think they said 70% of the world's population, which is like a lot of people, are reducing their meat consumption. So, like, I think meat consumption is like declining for the first time in like a long time.
That's interesting because like I said in the beginning of the show, I'm an omnivore. Like, I will eat my body weight in meat, just like raw hamburgers and rare steaks and chicken and pork. Like, just bring it on, right? Those like pork barbecues that you go to, those all you can eat pork barbecues. Like, I'm their worst nightmare. But when I do go vegan for several days or even as long as a week once, like I bet some vegan listeners are like, ooh, a whole week. But I don't really miss meat. I don't mind cutting it out. I don't eat it because I need to.
Right.
I eat it because I like it. Now we're talking about sugar. I need sugar.
It's interesting. No, I like the way you frame it, because what I've found with all the experimenting I've done, what I've found about sticking to my diet is that the key to sticking to the diet is making sure food I like is convenient and close to me. And like you said, I love meat. I mean, I joke that I'm a vegan meat eater because, I've eaten so much meat in my life. I grew up on meat. I love it. I mean, everything's seafood meat. I mean, I try to imagine like all the hamburgers I've eaten, and it would be like a giant mountain of hamburgers I've eaten in my life,
like Jughead from Archie,
like a fried. So I've eaten so much meat in my life, and I love it. And but what I noticed is that if I have like vegan food in front of me that tastes good, I'm happy. Like,
yeah, me too. I'm totally fine with that.
It's like I've gotten during this last year, I've searched out different restaurants, and I can recommend a few places to our listeners. And I've searched out stuff that I like, and as long as it's in front of me, I'm kind of happy. Like, I guess, like you said, it's like as long as good food is within arm's reach, I'll pretty much eat anything. I don't, I don't miss all the meat and seafood that I love. I really don't miss it as long as there's good vegetarian or vegan food in front of me.
Right. I think to most Thais, vegetarian means no visible chunks of meat. So I think when you say I'm vegetarian, they're like, well, there's no pork chunks in that, and you're like, yeah, but if you want to be a strict vegan or vegetarian here, and you're like, okay, I'm like, for instance, if I went to and order one of my favorite vegetable dishes, pat pak bung phai dang, which is just sort of like stir fried, I think it's morning glory or some kind of green weed.
Yeah,
it's really good, but it usually comes in oyster sauce.
Right,
so
right.
That's out. So, right. but that would be considered, I think for most Thais, a vegetarian dish because it's vegetables.
Right. Well, I mean, if you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that it all comes down to maybe what I said at the beginning. It comes down to like how serious or religious you want to be about it. So I know there are vegans out there, some vegans who they wouldn't want their food cooked in the same wok or frying pan.
Exactly.
If pork was just cooked in this wok, they don't want their vegetables cooked in that wok. And for me, whatever, it's up to everyone to decide their own thing. For me, I don't care about that stuff. Like I'm not down with being hyper religious about stuff unless it actually is a religion. Like I just don't get it.
That's a good way to put it.
So for me, if I'm sure in the last year, I'm sure I've accidentally ingested some meat products like in small amounts, just because I know that they're cooking my food in probably oil that had meat in it. But
you're right.
But
you don't freak out about it.
I don't really care about it.
I don't think you can do that here. I think if you're going to be a vegan or a vegetarian in Bangkok, you certainly need to be a bit more flexible. Otherwise, you either need to know exactly where to go,
right?
B, know exactly how to order in Thai,
right?
Or C, don't eat and starve to death.
Well, you can always cook for yourself. So.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. I've been living here so long eating street food, and I cooked Fruit Loops for myself the other day. That's about it. But I just think back to this time I went. I have a friend who's super, I guess hipster would be the best way to describe her, but she was like hyper ovo-lacto vegan, like hardcore.
Well,
and we went
actually,
out looking for food one time.
We need to clarify our terms here, because ovo-lacto means that she's vegetarian and eat eggs and dairy.
Okay. I'm sorry.
So she's vegan.
My cluelessness is showing.
Yeah, if she's vegan, that means like she's not ovo-lacto, like no animal products is vegan.
Okay, so she is pure vegan, like she eats no animal products at all, and it was excruciating trying to find a place to eat with her. It took us hours, and eventually I just got my own food, and I was like, you have to find your own food because I'm hungry and we're not having any luck here. And we were walking around. At the time I lived very close to Chinatown, which is where the J Festival is. That's why I'm very familiar with it. And it wasn't during the J Festival, but it was really difficult for her to find anything. And I can't even remember if she did find anything. She probably got a bottle of water and a twig or something like that.
That's interesting. I don't know. I don't know the details. Like I said, you can always order, stir-fried vegetables and rice. So it depends. Like if she's worried about the oil and the pot and the utensils, then I could see it could be very hard, Yeah. But like you said, you can always find vegan restaurants. So a couple places that I will name drop in case people are wondering. Near Khao San Road, no surprise with all the hippies over there, there are several vegan restaurants. There's a place called Ethos, Ethos. There's a place called Mango. And the place that we went to is a place called Mei Kai Di. And,
that was where you and me went out for dinner the other night. It was really good.
That's right. And I actually, Ethos and Mango are both good. They're a little bit more geared towards tourists, or maybe a little bit kind of like bougie, like kind of like upper middle class kind of places. They're actually
bougie.
They're actually not that expensive, and I like them. Mei Kai Di is very inexpensive. And it has a more Thai vibe, but I actually like it the best. I mean, they have an awesome menu. They got killer drinks, and I think everything there. They might serve like a Western breakfast with eggs, but I mean, it's almost all vegan, so you can't go wrong there.
That vegetarian masaman we had the other night was really good.
Yes, it was quite good. And then so Khao San is just a very easy area to be vegan. And then in Sukhumvit now, they've got this place called, I don't really like the name, but it's called Broccoli Revolution. So
those two words should never go together. I don't care what it's about, but those two words are
I think
complete opposites of each other anyway.
At least they're not hiding what they are. And I think Broccoli Revolution is 100% vegan. And so it's near the corner of Soy 49, very close to Soy 49. And it's really good, actually. It's a little bit more expensive. It's on Sukhumvit. I guess it would fit the category of being bougie vegan, So it's not, the weird thing about like vegan and vegetarian is you can do it very cheaply. If you think about like rice and beans and stuff like that is very cheap. But there's also kind of like a upper middle class, like Whole Foods market kind of vegan thing. And so Broccoli Revolution is a little bit more of that, like, I don't know, not necessarily snobby, but it's a little bit more of that, it's a little bit paying by Bangkok standards, but it's quite good. I mean, they have an extensive menu, and everything I have there I like a lot. So I recommend Broccoli Revolution.
I bet you can find some pretty good vegetarian restaurants in Little India and Paharat, but they'd be vegetarian Indian food, which is awesome.
That's right. So Indian food is great for vegetarians, and there are several good places near the temple on what is that? That is Siloam, on Siloam, right? There's some really good vegetarian places around there. Indian food is often not great for vegans, though, because a lot of Indian food has milk or cheese in it. Like a lot of Indian curries, they use regular milk instead of coconut milk. Like coconut milk is more of a Thai thing. So if you want vegetarian, then Indian food is definitely the way to go.
Well, it's interesting because in one of our upcoming shows that should be out in a few weeks, we're going to be talking with Pai Lin, who is the woman behind Hot Thai Kitchen, which is a really popular Thai food cooking show based in Vancouver, Canada. Yay. And she said, we were talking about misconceptions about Thai food, and she said that a lot of people in Canada just assume that all Thais are vegetarian because they're Buddhists.
Interesting.
And she said that's a really common misconception.
A lot of Westerners think that Buddhists are vegetarian. And like you said, it is a misconception. It really depends on what type of Buddhist you are. And there are certain Buddhist sects, certain Buddhist organizations that are vegetarian, but most Buddhists are not vegetarian.
Right. All right, man. Well, you opened my eyes a little bit, and I'm up for some more vegetarian food. Let's take me out and change my mind.
Cool.
Get me off meat for as long as you can. But while my mind is being changed, I wanted to be challenged. And I wanted to be challenged by everyone's favorite segment of the show, Love, Loathe, or Leave, where one of us surprises the other with a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something we love about living here, loathe about living here, or hate so much that it makes us want to leave forever. And Ed, this week, it's all on you. What do you got?
It is my turn, and I'm going to drop a bomb on you, dude. So this is... opening up a potentially big topic, so we maybe we can just introduce it. Maybe we can talk about it more later. But I want to know what you think about the clearing of the sidewalks of street food. Now, I know it hasn't happened everywhere, but in many places of Bangkok, they've been sweeping away the street food vendors and clearing away the sidewalks. And I want to know what you think about that. Sukhumvit is a good example where many of the street vendors are gone, both food vendors as well as just selling trinkets and stuff. And many of the sidewalks are now clear for the first time since I've been here. What do you think?
Yeah, we actually did a whole show about this, like sort of middle of last season, where we talked about it. We actually went down to Chinatown and we recorded from Chinatown after the big clean out. But it's still going on, so I've had some time since then to sort of observe and digest. Interesting. I love the idea, but I loathe how they've done it. It's sort of like a wholesale getting rid of everything. Like there's no nuance to it.
I see.
And I'm particularly offended because the joke guy, which I used to buy my delicious rice and pork porridge from every morning, has been swept off the sidewalk, even though the stretch of sidewalk that he was on near Siam BTS was like 10 meters wide, and his little cart was taken up, like 2 meters on the very edge.
He wasn't blocking anything.
No, not at all. And he was totally unobtrusive. But anyway, him and all of his friends had to go. And now there's just this big, ugly, boring stretch of concrete that I have to walk by every day hungry.
I see.
I think it's a good idea to bring some sense of order to it, but come on, do it a bit more intelligently than this.
Yeah, in a way, I'm probably roughly in the same boat as you. I lived on Sukhumvit for a long time, and I really hated the narrow channel I had to traverse because salespeople, whether it's food or other garbage, was taking up 80 or 90% of the available sidewalk. So it's like
right.
So there's just a narrow channel, like one lane of person. I found that really annoying. So the idea of regulating it or controlling it, I think, is a good idea. Like, but I kind of agree with you that they've been too extreme about it. Why not just draw a line and say you can't cross this line? You have to leave 2/3 of the sidewalk free for walkers. Instead they've just swept it all away. Yeah,
and it's a damn shame because it's like it's say what you will about it. It adds a certain je ne sais quoi, a certain flavor to Bangkok that makes Bangkok Bangkok. So
no doubt,
you can't sanitize yourself to popularity. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
I agree. Well,
yeah, I just wish they'd done it with a bit more nuance.
No doubt. Well, I think I speak for almost everyone here that we don't want Bangkok to become Singapore.
No. I like Bangkok to be Bangkok.
No doubt. Okay, a big thanks to all of those who support the show on Patreon and via other means. If you want to learn more about keeping the Bangkok podcast up and running, just head over to bangkokpodcast.com/support and see what you can see. And if you want to get in touch with us, we are at Bangkok Podcast on Facebook and on Twitter. Or you can send us a message via the contact form on bangkokpodcast.com, where we're usually pretty good at getting back to you.
Right, and you can also find us online where we post each episode and carry on conversations with our listeners. And you can also reach out to me directly on Twitter if you so feel like it, where I am BKK Greg. Thank you for listening, folks, and we will see you next week on the Bangkok Podcast. Chok di krap.
Kap on kap.